generally, I really like Roy and Alon's cases. In this case, they are extremely cowardly. Because what they said is that you don't need skills at all, and if you can prove that you do need skills, then we're going to give them in alternative methods. What we're saying is, first of all, obviously you do need these skills, people pay for them. If they had absolutely no value, people wouldn't pay for them in the status quo, and they didn't actually show that there was a bias there. They didn't show that it doesn't allow anything, and even if there are some skills that you get, first of all, we have the upper hand here. Furthermore, Mila has shown you many angles on how those sort of skills could be integrated into other things. So this sort of general knowledge would be useful. The fact that you have studied in the past allows you to study in the future, and all of these things have not been answered at all by Roy. Furthermore, okay, so they have a basic assumption that companies, economic companies, would enjoy giving that training to people because they have that interest and so on. What we're saying is this: if this is at the expense of the employer, first of all, it's going to be at his interest and not at the person's interest, which means that it has its downside. And secondly, it means that most people would choose not to do it. They assume that they can force this on people, and we're saying, even if they force it by law, it still means that people will hire less people who are less qualified. You will get entry-level jobs in which you're going to suffer more, and by your own logic, the school system is going to be changed into something that is even less useful and less likely. Furthermore, they said they can check other things. A degree is not indicative. There are other things that are indicative. First of all, he didn't give me one example of something that is more indicative. We gave you a list of things that are more indicative. We think that an IQ test is more random. We think that having job experience is based on other things. And my second point is going to handle that. And he didn't actually show us that you're going to get more skilled employees in less effort, which means the economic point fails. My 2 points today. Oh, no, thank you. My 2 points today are going to be the economic side, because they think the economic clash is the main thing, why it's good for the economy to do it. And secondly, social mobility and how they're preventing social mobility. So the stage in education, basically, is the first point. So, education is the highest grossing investment in the world. People are the best investment because you get the most money for that investment in income tax. They are the best investment because they have the highest certainty. Most people don't move after education unless, very, very well-educated people sometimes move and so on. You get brain tests and so on. But most people who do the first degree stay in the same country or stay in the same location, so training them is a rather certain investment. It's not that you lose your investment, and more importantly, you get the highest chance of surprise successes. You have the highest chance of someone who started, let's say, like Nati, to study one degree, moved to a second degree, and then started a third degree. Ori is also an example of that. He didn't start by studying physics. The academic environment is one. The academic environment, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Well, I'll take one of you in I'll take one of you in a second. You get the most surprise successes, surprise research, and so on. And this is very, very good for the economy in general. Yes.
Uri, how can you explain that the most groundbreaking people in computer science that we know are college dropouts and army veterans from 8 to 200?
First of all, I think that's an assertion that is actually not correct. You have one example of Einstein being like the one. We don't think of Facebook, okay? Never mind. By the way, went to Harvard, okay? So one. Secondly, I forgot your right, never mind. Okay. So first of all, why is it good for the economy? If people pay for it in the status quo, it means that you are worth more. It means that you have some skills that have some value, which means your eligibility for works is higher. We think that the personal interest here is also the state interest. Secondly, research. In order to have effective research, you have to have a basis of people who study. You have to have lower grade students in order to help with higher grade students and so on, which means that you do need to have some basis because this is good for the economy. You get less risk because their alternative, as in sending people to work and seeing how they do, is more risky. You spend more money on it, and your chances of success are less high. If you pay for it by the government, if you allow everyone a certain training program, it means that everyone who enters the job market will have a higher chance of actually being effective, which means that the investment as a country is more secure. Thirdly, the surprises, being exposed to an academic environment could give you things that you do not expect. Most research successes are not things that have been planned in the past. People move between jobs, move between careers, and so on. And an academic environment is unique in the fact that it allows for these things that other things simply do not allow. Lastly, what we said about changing market, and this is important, I just want to clarify this. How do we change the market? If we have people in the army or whatever, if they have job experience, unless you already have that sort of job in the country, you're not exposed to it. Education allows you to be exposed to things that you generally don't have in the country. A high-tech industry, by having an engineering degree, is something that unless you already have, you have no way of getting. I'm sorry I don't have the time, I would have taken you. Moving on to my second point, social mobility. So, if I don't have a first degree, I have to choose by one of two criteria. A, people who do get that education even if it's not sponsored, or people who get the trial period. These two things are highly dependent on social status and very, very dependent on income. The son of the professor is more likely to get the first degree or to get the education that he needs. A personal network is very, very likely to allow you to get that trial period. The poor will end up only working for the poor people. The minorities who are also poor are only going to end up working for minorities. They are not going to get equal opportunities, and this is immoral. We consider as a government our role, even if there is absolutely no economic benefit, like First Pop tried to give us. It is still our role to allow for social mobility and equal opportunity, because this is something that we consider to be very, very important. And furthermore, since economy seems to be their main interest, if you get people who are minorities or poor, and they are not exposed to skills, are not exposed to proficiency, are not exposed to all of these things that by bias they're not going to be exposed to, you get less skilled people, you get more of a poverty circle, people staying in that same environment and not getting out of it, and you're going to get more crime by very skilled people who are not exposed to an academic environment and therefore can't live that. All of these things cost more than educating people. Thank you very much.